now that we have set up what happened in the past and the ratios, we want to project it into the future, and we're going to make some assumptions. So here you say annual revenue growth on the average is 50.86. But let us be a little conservative here, and then you say, let's say that the revenue growth will only be 20% for the first 5 years. So we want to make this 20% and not the average. And we want that to be for 5 years. So it's the same. Okay, so if you set it equal to the previous one and for 5 years. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the revenue growth will be 20%. And then we are further assuming that after that, the revenue growth would have matured enough and it'll start going down. Okay, and at year 10, it would have reached 3%. The terminal growth rate is 3%. Now, what we were going to assume now is that after the 5th year, it'll gradually go down to 3% at the end. So the decline rate, okay, so how much should it go down each year is given by, okay, you want to start from 20 and then reach 3%. So that's the total amount of reduction that must take place, and we say that we want to do that year after year over 5 years. So this is the amount of decline in revenue that should take place each year for the growth rate to go down from 20% to 3%. So K17 minus K20, and the K20 must be absolute referenced. So you can copy. Okay, so at the 10th year, it'll be 3%, and after that, it'll remain 3% going forward. All right, so that's the second assumption. Okay, so after the 5th year, revenue growth will decline. Okay, so we just completed that. Okay, so now we are assuming costs and income tax rate will be the average. Okay, so these averages. Again, remember, we are now setting it up as a deterministic model, and we will relax this deterministic assumptions and incorporate simulation features after that. Okay, so assuming that it'll remain the same average throughout the 10 years is not realistic, but for the moment, let's set it up in that fashion. Okay, and that's it. After with that, we should be able to compute the net income, and then we look at the assumptions about cost of capital in just a minute. But so let's go ahead and set this up. So your revenues, okay, are going to be, it's going to increase at this rate, right? So previous revenue times 1 plus the revenue growth that we have assumed. So that will be the revenue for the year 2018. Okay, next is cost of goods. So cost of goods is going to be the revenue times the ratio. And remember, we assume that this is going to be the same ratio for all 10 years, so we have to make that absolute reference. So then the gross revenue will be that. Okay, so let's get rid of the decimal places. Now if you copy that over, we will get the revenues going forward and the net, gross income, um, gross profit for the 10 years. Okay. Next, research and development. Okay. And sales growth. So that would be, again, they are based on revenue. So revenue times R&D. So R&D percentage, okay, make that absolute reference. Right. Sales and general administrative expense, again, revenue times SG&A. Make that absolute reference. Then that will give you, if you add the two, you get that total cost. Okay, and then we can copy this formula over, so that will give us the operating income. Okay, so now we can copy these formulas like that. So we have the operating income. Now, the interest income and other operating income, so we are not going to assume anything there because this is not part of valuation for stock price valuation. So income before taxes will be that. Okay, now provision for income tax, so will be income before taxes times the tax rate, which is that, press F4, and then that will be the net income. Okay, so let's get rid of the decimal places. So now we copy that over. Okay, so now we have set up the forecast for the next 10 years in terms of what the revenue will be, what the cost will be, and what the net income will be, all based on our average ratios in the last 5 years. Okay. Next step is to compute the valuation, which will be like the present value of all the net income, and then any future income that will come after 10 years, that will have to be accounted for as well.